This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about the purpose of life. The purpose of life is a moving target. That's that's how it works. Life is a process, and so experience and knowledge and all the rest that goes with the life processes change how we see life, which means changes the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life for us, and the purpose of life. So how we understand society, how we understand human condition, and all the rest is always it changes, of course. Why does it matter? One of the main aspects of the purpose of life, to me, is agency. A life with agency is meaningless. Otherwise, we are just a tool. If we do not have agency, it's because we are a tool of somebody else, of a system, a belief system, a political system, an economic system, a person, a group, a cult, a religion, an ideology, or whatever. When we talk about freedom, we sometimes do not attach to that concept the idea of agency. Everybody knows that freedom has to do with agency. But since we talk about freedom in terms of personal freedoms, the financial freedom, those kind of libertarian, the part of the libertarian ideology that is always about private, that is always associated with private property ownership, and all that stuff. And that, of course, is important in the context of a particular system. Okay? It's called capitalism, which is the primacy of private ownership, private property ownership, private rights, all the protections that goes with it, and the accumulation of wealth. So this is a specific. This is the way most of the time we frame the freedom of movement. But how do you have freedom of movement if you don't have money? You don't have freedom of movement. And the more commodified is a society, the less freedom of movement. And it goes the same for freedom of expression. If you work for a boss and know that you want your job, you need your job, you are not going to say things that you are not going to make statements that upset your boss. You are not going to criticize him. You are not going to say what you think. If you have radical ideas about society, about the working place, and about other, you might not. You just don't say them. You don't want to put your job to jeopardize your job, and because you have responsibilities. You might have children, a family, a mortgage, and other problems. There comes another. This is one point why most of us do not really have freedom of choice, freedom of movement, and freedom of expression. And that's why we do not have an agency. We just don't have economic agency, political agency, and we are not going to move. So if you are in that, and for as long as you are in that, you are not moving upwards in the social ladder. So, because again, in a class society, these concepts are totally different for different people. They always try to, there are many authorities, experts, talking heads, all the people that will tell you that, okay, it's much better to be on the lower, you don't have so many responsibilities. The reason why these guys up there or gals up there, they earn a lot of money, but they work a lot. They have huge responsibilities, and you don't want to have their life. So their life is so painful. They, of course, in some situations they have pressures, and there are some that it's not. But this is just a way to convince that you just should feel fine with your condition, being exploited, being, what's the purpose of your life? It's just to serve. It's servitude in one way or another. And you should enjoy it. Why do you want, what kind of purpose do you want to have in life but to just work a lot and just raise your kids, then they will become servants as well. That's the purpose of your life. What kind of, aren't we all in it? Yes, we are. So, therefore, the purpose of life in a commodified society is to accumulate wealth. Because wealth is what some form of capital. It's what allows us to be recognized. That's what allows us to be winners or losers. That's a game, We don't have, life just becomes a game, A football game or any other form of game, you just go and you watch the match, and then there will be a winner or a loser, and of course they might be even, but then they just go, everybody goes home, some happier, others a little upset with the result, but in the end life continues. But in the real life, and we should understand that games or game theory is not the real life. It's like the same as neoclassic economics. It's not about the real economy. We can be led to attach purpose to systems and ideologies that actually has nothing to do with the real life. And that's very dangerous. Actually, all those things, I said that has nothing to do with the real world, but that is not true. What I meant, it was that they seem real, but they are just just a way to indoctrinate us in order to understand the real life of daily working people as being a game as well. And that's not right, because life is not a game. Life is for real. If you are a loser in real life, you and your family and your children can go through unnecessary suffering. And this is a very important concept, because actually in our societies, the way we frame the understanding of these problems, for example, these two concepts of winners and losers, is as if they don't matter. You are just a loser. No. And you are a loser, it's your fault. If you lost the game, it's because you have picked the wrong tactics, or your coach is not good, or whatever the reason is. So you never come to understand reality through the lenses through systemic lenses. What are the root causes? Why do you understand reality in that way? Because in order to understand the purpose of life, we need to understand that the purpose of life, we can be instrumentalized and indoctrinated to even believe that the purpose of life is something that it doesn't serve our interests. It doesn't serve a life with meaning for you, for me, for most of us. And that should matter a lot. Because the purpose of life needs to be associated with meaningful lives. And do not tell me that this is about, this is abstract thinking, this is subjective, this is personal, each person has a different view. This is again bullshit. And it is bullshit because, again, it just doesn't care, it neglects intentionally that we should understand life as a process, that we can cause that the system that we every day put up with, that we participate, that we reinforce, it might be causing unnecessary suffering, which means that is suffering that there is no reason whatsoever to inflict it on people or animals or the land or the rivers or whatever. I don't care if rivers or trees or whatever they have feelings or not. It's not the point for me. That's not. I don't want to have a useless discussion about that. When I'm talking about unnecessary suffering, it's just causing damage that is not that could be avoided. It can be so in so many ways, and that it should be important to us. It should be relevant to our understanding of the purpose of life. So the purpose of life always we cannot dissociate it from the concept of civilization, society, economic system, political economic system, because again, that's something I really like to emphasize. There is no such thing as the economy. Economy is always political. There is only one thing: political economy. Do not try to understand economy without understanding it as part of politics, because it doesn't exist. The economy is not a science. The economy is a social science. Is part of the humanities. It doesn't matter how much they brag, the orthodox economists or whoever it is, they brag about mathematical models and statistics and this and that. Just economics is always about political choices. And political choices, it's all about setting the stage for the purpose of life. Okay, that's how we need to understand how important it is to the purpose of life. It has never been about accumulating stuff and wealth. And by the way, you cannot accumulate wealth, And why is that? Because wealth is a virtual, is part of the virtual world. That's why you can only accumulate physical. You cannot, the same way we cannot eat virtual crops. You cannot eat virtual food. We cannot live in a virtual house, okay? Wealth doesn't exist. It's just because it can exist, because we can conceptualize this, because our minds have the ability to imagine and to create these conceptual and abstract realities. And then we make these machines where they are stored, okay? That you can understand that there is only digital wealth. You don't have only digits in some stored in some hard drive somewhere. That's why before wealth was in the form of metals, precious metals. Why is that? Because there was the need to have a factual, a physical, a material representation of the wealth. It's not because accountability, accounting is not accountability too. That's very, very, very hugely important. But an accounting system is important for our societies, of course. But the purpose of life has never been about that. The purpose of life just to give meaning to life. But you can give meaning to life the way we give meaning to life, it can be very misleading. It's not because, again, many people, different people with different temperaments and the combination of the personality and the life experience and so many other factors, idiosyncratic characteristics make us can have put meaning assign meaning to our lives in so many ways. That's not up for debate. What is for debate is general rules, and these general rules have to do with the ability to give our choices, real choices in the real life, not games of winners and losers, and nobody and that we should not care about the fate of the losers because it's their responsibility. Why they are losers? Because this is not only about thinking they are losers. That's something that happened then to be losers. So that's the same mentality. Go back to the game example. We always need to ask, okay, you are telling me that losers are losers because they have been doing the wrong choices, and they are being responsible. They are this and that. Okay, that can, everybody understands that part of the people that can be called losers, it's because of those reasons. That everybody understands it. But it's not that all losers, or maybe the majority of losers, are losers because of that, of not behaving correctly, or being irresponsible, or neglect this or that, and so forth and so on. It's because there are systemic reasons. and the systemic reasons, that's what we need to understand why there are so many people that belong that group. I mean, all the people that are in many countries from the global south, millions and billions of people, from the ones that are that starve, that are starved to death, to the ones that are exploiting, or the children working in the cobalt mines in the Congo, or whatever it is, or exploited in so many plantations, banana plantation. I mean, it's so many the ones that are they don't have land, landless peasants. I mean, is that all of them, or the people, the precariat in the developed countries, the people that do not have any, they have a stable job. All the reality, the people that have to put up with bullshit jobs just to survive. Is that all their fault? It's because they do not have initiative. I mean, is not that because the game is rigged? Can we imagine that the rules are set up to favor, to make it possible that some lose and others win? Is that a conspiracy theory? If we are part of the loser team, the ones that are always in the loser side, systematically, I think we should, it is what we should be blamed for, is to buy in the narrative that we feel that we blame ourselves. And instead of trying to understand the real reasons why you are not allowed to have a life with purpose and meaning, because you know why? You are not living above your means. You are being deprived of the means to live. Can you understand that? Can you wrap your mind around that? And start from there and try to understand why is that, instead of blaming immigrants and blaming the communists and blaming this and that. That could be a good start. Framing the political and economical rules and social rules for a life with purpose, giving a kind of universal rights, the universal rights for a life with purpose. That is essentially means one thing. It could be boiled down to one thing, and it's time. Okay? Because time is the unit to measure life. Life is measured in time. Okay? So the time that we dedicate to whatever, it's important. Because we can, and the purpose of life is associated with the amount of time we have available to invest in what we believe in every stage of our lives. That's going to give purpose and meaning to our lives. Not only as individuals, but as individuals as part of a society, of a community. Because that's important that we understand this relation, not this separation, but this relation between the individual and the collective. Not only the family. That's why this system is pretty rotten, because everything is about the family. That's how I disagree totally with the inheritance as the way we have it, because it distorts our sense of belonging to a society and to a community. It really distorts it. It really helps us to become less sensitive to others, because we either think in the collective well-being or the collective of our families. Okay, we can, because it will always be more important for us to try to accumulate as more wealth as possible, to protect the ones that we have been taking care all of our lives, and are the kind of continuation of ourselves. That's already. So this, most people do not even give a little bit of reflection, don't reflect on these subjects. They think this is just the way reality is, and that's again, we have to fight to strive to accumulate wealth, to have bigger houses, better cars, better houses if you prefer, and accumulate wealth and all the rest. Always in competition with our neighbors, in competition with our fellow citizens, even among the wealthy there is this competition, which is a competition that in the end is a form of annihilation. We want to annihilate our competitor. That's why the game is called monopoly. There is the capitalist rule. It's not for competition. It's exactly to use competition to create monopolies, to eliminate the weaker competitors. And do not believe that this is done under a playing level field. No, this is always about corruption and bribery and it's always a game where accountability is the first, not only the truth. We always say the truth is the first casualty of war, and accountability too, in peace as well. That's why truth and justice, in my opinion, are the most important values to create a society where empathy and compassion and solidarity will become naturalized. That's the purpose that we need to naturalize into our in the social system, which means economic and political system, the values and the rewarding system, that people then will behave to fulfill it, because it will become part of who they are. That's how it works, and never allow the ones. That's simple as that. Never allow the ones with sociopathic tendencies and psychopathic tendencies to take over, to give us. That's why I'm against authorities, in the sense that instead that's because it's against our agency. If we look for saviors and authorities and masters and heroes to save us, to rescue us, instead of empowering ourselves with knowledge, with unity, with organization, with the power that's empowering us, we are always in the end, and we are always open ourselves to be manipulated by by scumbags. Actually, it's by scumbags. Because there are no good leaders. Of course there are good leaders, but I believe they are the exception, not the rule. Because the system is set up to reward not the good ones. It's exactly the opposite. It's to expel them. It's to destroy them. It's to not allow them to even get close to power positions. What does it have to do with the purpose of life? Because the purpose of life is exactly to have a system where we, besides having the time, we also need to have the intellectual agency, the cultural and the understanding of the human condition that allows us, as free as possible, to understand what we really want to do with our lives. Not just by becoming to accumulate wealth, but what is the real purpose of life? I mean, because it's very easy that we become servants of other people's ideas and other people's projects and objectives and goals, while thinking that we are doing it because we want to do it. That's nothing wrong to dedicate our lives or to give purpose to our lives that by dedicating our lives to others. Nothing wrong with that. But we always need to understand that that is being done in a way that it really is for a better society, not in the sense that we are helping a few people, but for the justice and truth in a holistic way, which means that we always need to understand that what we do needs to be to create a society and a civilization that works for everybody. Because otherwise, if we think that we are entitled to have and enjoy what others cannot access, and that we have to destroy the ecosystems and everything else just to create a dystopic, technocratic, fascistic, transhumanistic civilization, I think we do not understand what's the purpose of life. Simplicity, because we should always try to understand life. I mean, this is my opinion, to understand life through the lenses of simplicity. And by simplicity, I mean, I go out for a walk and I look around me and I see the cycles of life. There is the seasons. Now it's springtime, therefore there is plants are flowering. It has been a humid winter, so there was a lot of rain during the winter and spring and even springtime. So the landscape are lush, the animals, the birds, and this is, we started, that this is the earth. This is our home, not because we own it, but because that's where I don't care if it was aliens. I don't care if it was Adam and Eve. It's not my point. We are here. I do not believe we are evil. I do not believe that we came here to destroy the planet. I just know that we are just a living being that has certain characteristics, and again, I do not care, because I care to understand human condition in the perspective that how can we understand ourselves and make ourselves our life and the life of others, and to build a civilization and a society that is fair, that is based on justice and truth, and then we can all have lives with purposes, that to have a political economy that allows us to have lives with purpose and meaning. That's what is important to me to understand about human condition or human nature, because that's, if we try to justify, because this is always about justify that, okay, we can be evil, we can be, there is a lot of that, and then we will be, that's a system of like the karma system, okay? You accumulate your karma, and then you'll be punished in the next life. How stupid can that be? When somebody says that that it's very difficult for the rich to get to heaven, because there is a kind of perversion that we associate. Why was all the time debt and interest an important issue for our ancestors? Why was that? Even for most religions, because they could see that was unjust. It is always a question of injustice. It's not a question that we are going to be punished in the next life or are going to go to hell. That's already a justification that you can do whatever you want, and we are going to punish later. But then nobody comes back to tell us. And then we are justifying the possibility of causing unnecessary suffering because justice will be done later. No, justice, accountability, and truth need to be part of the political system, of the economic system, of the social system, and it has to be the purpose of civilization. Not to build temples and palaces and all these monuments, huge monuments that we have in old Europe, that are symbols of imperialism and colonialism. How can we see that symbols of civilization when they are exactly the opposite? They might be symbols of achievement and in engineering and architecture, and because the money, not because the wealth and the capital was allocated to they could be patrons of the arts and the architecture and all these nice things that while the peasants were living, while they were wasting this wealth and capital, the peasants were living in very poor conditions, were being exploited, and were servants and slaves. Without the opportunity to have a life with meaning and purpose. Because the purpose of their lives and the meaning were dictated by others. That's the same that's happening now. That's what I'm talking about. That's the purpose and meaning of our lives are being dictated by others. That's why we do not have agency. The freedom of choice we have, like the freedom of movement and the freedom of speech, is manipulated. It's no choice when you can only choose from a menu that you don't allow you to write your own menu. You have to choose from a menu that somebody else, an organization, the academia, the think tanks, you know, the all these authorities and organizations and groups that have the ability to tell us how we should think. No, how we are allowed to think, what we can choose, what is right and wrong, what is life, what's the purpose of life, what is society and what's the purpose of society, and what is civilization and the purpose of civilization. So that we are still living under the paradigm of the imperialistic civilization that conditions and shapes how we understand life, how we understand ourselves. Therefore, the purpose of life and the meaning, how we assign meaning to life, is not exactly that is not part of our freedom of choice, because it has been pre-selected for us, like the politicians are. There is a pre-selection. We are not the ones that discuss it by ourselves, or even just we have the freedom of choice. Then just because we choose, that's the trick. Just because we believe we choose, we believe we have freedom to choose, when in fact we are not. It's not ideas that really are part of our creative process, not part of our understanding of the reality, but part of the reality that is given, that is somebody else frames it for us. So this is not exactly how it should be. We need to be agents. Of course, I say it many times that we all are part. We all are part. I mean, I used to say, and that's what I really believe, that we are bits and pieces of other people's life experiences and knowledge, because knowledge is a collective. It derives from the collective experience. It's not because there are, the shoulders of giants, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's bullshit. We do not need. I mean, all the great, so-called great scientists, like Einstein, and all the people that are really. I mean, it's. We do not need that knowledge. There was no need for that knowledge. Most of our experience as human beings was out. That's why I was talking about simplicity. It's not because I do not want to go back. It's not the case. I'm not I'm not favorable of anarcho-capitalism, as I'm not favor of anarcho-primitivism. All right, they are both wrong. And I understand. I believe that we need a state. I used to believe when I thought I could bend towards anarchism, but now I understand that we need the state. It's impossible to organize life, our societal lives, without the state. That is just a fact. This is not just. We need organization, we need institutions. So the point is that all the idea that we stand in the shoulders of giants, to me, I like to say that we stand civilization, imperialist or imperialistic civilization has always stood on the shoulders of the so-called losers, the ones that the Americans would now call losers. Because that's the ones that build. I mean, I can design a beautiful building. That doesn't make any difference. It's part of the virtual world, not part of the real world. That's again the difference that we need to clear, understand the division. You know, we do need to understand this division. What matters, what will always matter, it's the people that the anonymous people, the ones that nobody cares about, and then when they don't have a job, or if they fall into debt, or if they lose their houses, everybody's pointing to say, okay, the loser has not the ability to protect their assets, but the rich have that ability. And you know why? Because they are the ones that design the legal system to protect them. They are the ones that leverage all their wealth with debt. They are the primary dealers. That's the one that have all the privileges. And they rig the system on their behalf for their interests. So, this is fine art. Who doesn't love very well crafted paintings, or other forms of arts, and engineering, and architecture, and all these new devices like the one I'm using now? Isn't that wonderful? Yes. It would be stupid to say that is not amazing, all this science and technology. But it's not to be venerated. It's not to be transformed into technoscientism, into a religion that is probably far more dangerous than the previous ones. So the idea that is always the ones that build houses, you can say, don't they need the drawing? They need this is all of this is true. But our job, the people that have to do exactly the tasks that most people do not enjoy, because they are dangerous, because they are hard, because they are monotonous, because they are whatever. They consume a lot of time. They don't allow you to have the freedom to concentrate yourself in something else. Those are the ones that put the food on the table and the roof of our heads. And they never deserve. That's why I always say it. They never deserve and that's on purpose. Because we never had the age of the common man. The ones that are benefiting with our system, with the capitalist system, is the so-called professional managerial class. You know, not us. So so we need to understand that freedom, it will always be conditional and relational. That is for sure. There is no freedom, or there is no truth or justice that is not relational. That doesn't need a context. But we need to transform our culture into a culture for agency, not a culture of followers. We do not need, I mean, just because I say that we are pieces and bits of other people's experience and knowledge, I do not, I'm not saying that we are followers. That's a shared thing. where everybody is important. There are not people more important. There is nobody important than me. And why? Because nobody can exist on my behalf. Nobody should have the agency that I deserve. That's not because I'm better or more worthy or anything else. It's just because we all are important. And this is not, I do not use this rhetorically. This is not a slogan. You know, this is not about a slogan. I'm not saying this. This is just exactly what I believe, and what I believe we need to strive for, while never denying exactly that how important society is, how important all the rest of the community of life is. This has to be part of purpose, and by purpose again I want to emphasize the need to have a system that where purpose, the rules, the basic rules for a life with purpose are already enshrined in the system. And the system is not an abstract, I'm not talking about an abstract reality. I'm talking a political, economic political system, a civilizational paradigm, where we have rules, regulations and laws and institutions and organizations for national and international cooperation. That we know what we want. The humanity needs to have a shared understanding of what is the purpose of civilization. In spite of all our differences, cultural and civilizational origins. forget about the end of globalization, of the end of this or the end of that. That's not going to have to. It is stupid to imagine that globalization is going to end, because international trade is not going to end. What is going to end probably is a particular form of globalization that was supposed to be controlled by the Western powers, especially by the American empire, the only hegemonic power after the demise of the USSR. So that era is probably over. It's very difficult. So we will have a multipolar order, but a multipolar order doesn't mean the end of the globalization. The globalization of the economy, the international trade, and everything else. That's not going to end. So that's stupid to me. So what we need is a real international law, a system for cooperation, and based in rules that will be followed by all countries. With principles and rules and values, where the dignity of life and the protection of the earth systems is enshrined. Because going back to the understanding of simplicity, we do need to understand the rules of simplicity. We do need to understand where we come from. In order to have good lives, accumulation of wealth, and the maximization of profit, and the privatization of everything, privatization and commodification of everything, is not the purpose of life. We cannot transform it in the only purpose of life, where private wealth and private property and private property rights are above everything else. Whether we have a communist party like in China, or the capitalist parties, which are the rest of the parties that we have all over the world. You know, we have green parties, capitalist neoliberal parties, socialist parties, the so-called democratic left, they are capitalist parties with a socialist veneer. Okay? So, in my opinion, again, time, how we spend our time. But time, in terms of life, is also how we spend our inner lives, how we, because time is also that. Time is not only how we spend our physical lives, you know, what do you do, how many hours do you have to spend working and doing the what's the name of it, house chores, or whatever we have to do. Time is also what do we do? What kind of freedom do we have? Do we enjoy? In terms of cognitive terms, how are we worried? How important it is that we are not all the time worried because of that, because of not affording to be sick, or not affording something, always worried, fearful of losing our job, of all those worries that usually have to do with money, have to do with what I used to say, that is a gatekeeper. Money is a gatekeeper, okay, to keep you outside, it's to keep us outside, to disable us, because money actually is a tool against our ability to have any kind of agency. That's why it's a tool. It's a tool that is used by the rich. When I say by the rich, I don't say the guy that has a few. It's rich, not those guys that are rich comparing to us, but the ones that really have control the strings. They pull the strings. So this agency, when I talk about agency, I talk about political agency, economic agency, social agency, but also about the inner agency, which means that we need to acquire and train critical thinking and an analysis, to be skeptic, but in a way that we do understand how the manipulation, how the weapons of mass deception are used to manipulate perception, to make us fearful, and not only for manufacturing consent, of course that's the purpose, but it is to keep us. That's the role of info entertainment, and that's the role of so many other. It's a really a complex toolbox. It's a very diversified toolbox to keep us fearful, entertained, deceived. That's really or to direct our anger towards specific groups through dehumanization and demonization, and all these public relation tools, they are used to impossibilitate that we have any real agency. That's and without that agency, we cannot build purpose and meaning in life, because all the odds are against us. The system is not set up to help us to release ourselves, to free ourselves, but to keep us in a maze. It's exactly the opposite. Then wanting us to think about freedom in terms of, I want my financial freedom, and which means maybe owning Bitcoin and you are financial free. I mean, that may be for a few. If you own a few coins, you might be free. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is for all of us. There's no financial freedom in that based system. Where is the financial freedom? Where is the financial freedom when you have a system, a financial system that is privately controlled, and they can, I mean, they really control everything basically. So that's stupid to believe in the libertarian ideals of freedom based on private freedom. That association, that private property rights, and accumulation of wealth is the only way to be free, when people know that it's impossible to level the playing field, that the rules apply to everybody. It's exactly the opposite. The rules we have now, they favor always the rich. If you are poor, you might not be able to access to credit, or if you have credit, they will charge you more interest, making your life more difficult, or you can even become it's if you are poor, you are always in disadvantage. That's why they call you loser. They call you loser because the system is rigged against you, against us. The system is set up to make it difficult for most of us, the vast majority of us, to be able to become part of the middle class even. And never forget that when out of the fight for justice, for social justice and political justice, if the oligarchs and plutocrats, if they give us some rights, labor rights, it's because we are organized and they are fearful. It's never because they are good people. Not because they want our best. They have our best interests at heart. They don't, and they never will. And you can see that in the new oligarchs. Just look at the tech oligarchs. Just look at how they behave, and just look at their political ideology. What do they want? They want freedom. If they talk about freedom, it's about the freedom for them to control everything. That's why they hate politics. Because politics is about framing. Who gets what? It's about politics. It's not education. It's politics that is the equalizer. And the state, under democratic control, is the tool to make it work. Universal basic services, social housing, transportation, all the things that matter need to be under democratic control. Because if they are for profit, the poor, will be always why? We will be always they will never have access, or very difficult, because if everything is commodified, if you don't have the money, you don't matter. That's exactly like that. You are not a loser. You are just you have been deprived of the means to live by something called the enclosure of the commons. It doesn't matter. So everything, many things that doesn't seem nothing to do with purpose and meaning in life, actually they might matter most or more than you could ever believe. And that's how I'm going to end this conversation today.